You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
I'm so interested in homeschooling, I jump at the chance to learn more from families who are thriving doing it. Tonight we meet a homeschooling mom who started a homeschool cooperative in Waterbury, so stick around. Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candace. Now let's start the show. Hey!
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm holding on by a thread, but I'm good.
That's okay, because I always got you back. So it is Thursday. Welcome back to the Breezy Moms podcast, coming to you live on Digital Stream Radio, also on Facebook Live. So if you guys are on Facebook, make sure that you go and click on the link to the video, sit with us, enjoy our conversation, and we're going to be here talking to one of Candace's guests, which is always an amazing thing to have them on in studio. So Candace, what are we doing today?
So tonight we are joined by a mom who's been homeschooling for 4 years and started a cooperative, a homeschool cooperative, when she couldn't find one that met her needs. I'm so excited when I find this kind of gusto because it's really the stuff that badass moms are made of. Chemay, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I'm glad you consider me a badass mom.
I mean,
Badass mom.
when you're like, oh, there's nothing.
I'm tired all the time.
Aren't we all? That's like a constant. That's like base level for moms. If you're not tired, like, I don't think you should talk about it because everybody's going to be mad.
So,
but yeah, I think it's incredible if you're looking for something and it doesn't exist, you make it.
You
right?
make your own.
A lot of people don't think that way.
A lot of people don't, and I didn't always think that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a mind shift for me to finally, as I matured, to realize that I can't always sit around and wait for someone to make something for me.
That's real.
And people aren't going to always make it for you. So I think probably once I hit my mid-30s, between mid-30s hitting 40 is when I was just like, I'm just going to start making shit because nobody's doing it. So I might as well do it.
That's so good. That's so good. I love it. So we are going to jump into that in a minute. We're going to do, I switch things up a little bit tonight because sometimes when our guests are here, we do our intro with you guys in silence, and it feels a little bit weird when it's a different story when people are calling in. But when you're in studio, I feel like we should just bring you into the sauce, like right at the beginning. So,
well, basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to ask Candace a question, and she's just going to give us a rundown of all the craziness she's experienced in the past week.
Holy cow.
And it's amazing. So, Candace, I have a question for you.
Yes, what is it?
How are your amazing boys?
Okay, so this week my boys truly are amazing. I mean, so we've had a whole lot going on in the last 4 days that, like, if you told me that I was going to have all of this stuff happen in 4 days, I'd be like, nah, because I can't handle that kind of thing. But I'm still here, and I'm here at the show, which I wanted to cancel.
And you're handling it.
But we're handling it. We're handling it as a family. I said to Lincoln the other day, I was like, listen, dude, it's you and me. We are the healthy ones right now. And so we're a team. And so, like, you take one, I'll take the other one.
Which one did you give him?
So I gave him James.
Oh, of course. Give him Dad.
So I gave
Go
him
bother
dad,
your dad.
and I took Lincoln, and it's just like a tag team effect, right? Like if I have to go, because usually what happens is if I have to go and do something, he wants to come with me. And I'm like, dude, we can't both go because you and I are a team. So one of us has to stay behind so that the other two aren't left on their own. So anyway.
You manipulated your child into keeping away from you.
No,
Smart.
That's not what I did.
See, I was doing that.
I convinced him that at 5.5 years old, he was strong enough to manage two whole other people. Because I'm a New Yorker and I started taking the bus at 7.5 years old, like 2 hours each way. So you just have to learn, like, into the fire. You just have to go feet first. So
that's right. Don't fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep. And it's so hard for me to even know what's appropriate because I grew up a New York kid, and you just get pushed into doing a whole lot of things that we definitely coddle our suburban kids.
But I will tell you, though,
now.
There's definitely a big difference between New York kids or like New York appropriate and Connecticut appropriate. Like there's a huge difference.
I know, but we just have to make it work because this is the life we're living in. So in the last, what is today?
Today's Thursday.
Okay, so that's the 4th day of the week? Or
Breezy
the 5th?
Mom's Thursday.
Okay, so it's the 5th day of the week.
Uh-huh.
In that time, I have spent 10 hours in the ER with James, who ruptured his Achilles tendon.
Naughty.
I came home to Emery, who was like having an asthma fit and almost also then needed to go to the ER, but we made it through the night. So he just stayed home from school. On my busy Mondays when I have all the daycare kids plus my kid who doesn't follow any of the rules. and then we thought that James's injury was a little less severe. And then we found out today that it actually is fully ruptured. So he has to have surgery. We're out doing all the follow-up stuff today, and we get a phone call from school that Emery is having an issue with his eye. We think maybe he has pink eye or like a bug bite on his eye. I don't know, but it was swollen shut. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. But then
you can have him.
And it was so crazy because we were having this moment where we had been out the whole day and we were going to pick him up to then go to the pediatrician, and I didn't know how long that was going to last. And I hadn't eaten anything all day, and I was feeling lightheaded and crazy. Like I'd barely use the bathroom. You're like, listen, I need a minute, because every time I walk away from James, the doctor comes and says something, and then I miss it, and then he comes back and says something like, "Oh, I think I can drive." It's like, no, you can't. You cannot drive with a boot on your foot.
Good try.
And so I was having this moment that you can probably understand. This like, we had to go to get him, but I really needed to eat something. And so I needed to stop. I stopped at McDonald's and picked up some food. And I felt this moment of, but the school called and said that you need to come and get him. So I need to go straight, but I also might pass out between here and there. And in the next 2 hours, I don't know when I'm going to get to eat. You know what I mean?
I've been there 100 times.
It just feels like I need to put on my mask first, like it just felt like that kind of moment. And I didn't, I could only think about it for 2 seconds, right? Like you don't have all this time to sit and figure out what's the right thing to do. You just have to do it.
Well, just remember that even Wonder Woman took time to pause, look around, and make sure that she could swirl around and turn into Wonder Woman. She took.
You don't want to knock anybody over while you're swirling.
Or so what you did was appropriate. You need to make sure you cannot take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself first.
It's so real.
And if you're famished to the point where you can't even think because all you're thinking about is food, it's like, how are you going to help
anybody
busted? Your husband is busted at this point. He's busted, and your poor child is like, trying to like make it out of one eye. How are you going to be able to manage that if you
pass out on the way?
Yeah, no.
I know. So
I think you did it right.
It just made me think, though, about, like, as a parent, you're juggling all of these things, but you also have to manage the whole, like on the plane, it says in big letters, put on your mask first, right? Because you can't help anybody if you're passed out. But it's so hard.
It's a hard thing.
It's hard to remember to do that in the moment. And as I was eating the Big Mac in the car, like driving, I was literally driving with one hand and eating the fries like right out of the paper bag because I didn't have a free hand to like eat the fries. Just like shoving, just drinking soda. I don't even like soda anymore. Just like, I'm so hungry. Like, it's insane. And I'm driving there thinking, I just have to get there. You just have to get to the next step, and eventually you'll be able to relax. But the way the last 4 days have been going, there hasn't been a break yet. And I'm just like, can I catch like a half of a break? But on the flip side, my husband, who's ever the optimist, right, and ever cool and calm under all the circumstances, is just like, yeah, but look at how we're getting through it. I was like, why we have to have a ruptured Achilles in order to know we can make it through some shit? Like, can we just have a minor little like sprained ankle? And that shows us we can make it through. He's like, no, this is how you find out that you actually have what it takes. You can do it. All of these things are happening, but look at how they're also falling into place. The appointment happened right when we needed to. The other thing, your mom is here. My mom, remember I told you my mom was getting the license so she could work with me at the thing? James got hurt on Sunday. Her license came through on Monday. And so it was like so perfect because I needed her to come up today I needed to be out. I've already been out of work so many times. And so you're feeling really guilty that you're putting 6 other people out of work, right? And so now her license is there so I can stay open. The daycare kids can keep coming, but I can still take care of my family and not feel like you're like falling apart at work and not taking care of your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have a big it's a huge help now because mom is licensed, meaning that you can step away for a moment and leave her caring for these kids that are in your care. Right? Because she has that type of license and that type of certification.
Yep.
And that's important.
Do you have other staff, or is it just
no? So I was by myself. So that was the thing. If I had to close, then everybody stays home. Everybody else has to figure out what to do. So now she's my backup, but it's not a always thing because she has her own job and she lives in New York, right? So it was
she lives in New York.
Yeah, so she's not here. So remember I told you things always work out for me?
Yeah.
Like, I hate that these are the kinds of things that have to work out for me.
Mama.
But at the end of the day, like, things are working out. And
Mama, if you're listening, plan on being here for the week. Like, especially over the course of the next 6 or 8 weeks, while James is sort of kind of acclimating to his new status.
No, everybody has to go to work.
Huh?
She might still be at my house right now, but she's got to go home because she's got work in the morning.
So she's going to go back to New York.
So she's going to go back to New York and go back to her job. And then next week when we need one more day, another day, or somebody else is going to come. But what is really fantastic, and I can't stress how important having a village around you.
Yeah.
And, we all want to like grow up and be big and move away from home. But like, these are the moments where you're like, shit, I moved too far. Maybe I should have just gone 20 minutes down the road. You know what I mean? Like,
my mom is a mile down the street. So
see, that's incredible. So my mom's 90 minutes in one direction. My in-laws are 2 hours in the other direction. But, it's close enough.
Yeah.
But it's not like they can't be there every day.
No.
So we have enough family that's accessible a little bit, even though they have full-time jobs. And I shout out to my like chosen village, my chosen family, the people in New Haven that I've like made friendships with over the last 10 years that I've been in New Haven. Like, I really couldn't manage. Literally on Monday when I got the message from James, I was looking out the window. Remember Tina was on the show a while ago?
Yes.
I was looking out the window to see if maybe Tina was at home because, of course, Emery had just fallen asleep because he had just gotten some asthma medicine. And both of her cars were gone, so I was like, crap, she's gone. And then as I was trying to figure out who I was going to call next, Yashwin was walking up the hill. And so I like tear out of my front door. I was like, Yash, I need help. And they just like, it's like I just could cry thinking about how important and how incredible the village is around me and how really
fantastic.
Important it is.
Yash is fantastic.
You really
like,
can't even
is she
make
a neighbor?
her. She's a neighbor. She lives right up the street.
And, she's got her own tribe of kids, right?
A whole tribe.
A whole tribe. But she don't care, right? Oh, you want me to babysit? She'll bring the whole tribe with her, and y'all better be quiet.
Right.
Because he's sleeping.
So she took Lincoln to her house, and her eldest came and sat with Emery while he was sleeping. And then when he woke up, then they walked up the street to her house. And so, like, really, shout out to Yash, shout out to the people who are around. A friend of mine you haven't met this friend, but a friend of mine brought us dinner tonight. I just couldn't even manage if I didn't have the people around me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone.
And we've had an entire episode on Candace's show talking about how important, your chosen village or even your village period is. Like, you need to have people around you that in times of crisis are there for you, that they're there to lift you up and help you, because in the end, that's all we have, right? To help each other.
Especially as young families with young kids. Like, kids bring drama. Like, they're awesome, but they have so much drama into your life. You know what I mean? It's just
a little dramatic.
It's just in terms of like extra things that you have to deal with, there's just so much that you can't even like, there are books, but they're not right. And they're not exclusive or, they're not, what's the word that I'm looking for? They are not all inclusive, right? They don't cover every single thing. You're just like, how could these things happen? And it's not that they're brand new or like singular to you, but it always feels like it is. And so part of why we do the show, part of why I really enjoy talking to parents and moms and people who are in this stage of life with me is because it makes me remember that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
You know, we're not alone in managing or like barely managing
And we
all of
shouldn't be
these
alone.
things that are going on.
Right? Yeah, we shouldn't be alone.
Yeah. So all of that is to say the boys are good because we've gotten through. We've made it through these 5 days and everybody is still standing. They might be moving slowly. They're all still standing. And Lincoln, who is
Pun
probably the healthiest of us all, is doing super well. And I was worried about him because, you know, when there's a lot of attention put on one sick person, it's hard for the healthy kid. You know, then they start coughing. You're just like,
what about me?
What about me?
yes. So,
I will tell you though, you posted a picture on Facebook of you and him, and he's like laying against you.
Mhm.
Your son looks like a teenager.
I know.
He's
He
so
doesn't.
grown.
He's a baby.
He's so grown.
He's a baby, but he's so incredible. But he's, you know, a classic firstborn. He knows what's going on. He's there to like participate and not cause any additional drama. You know, it's just, and I think part of managing that was talking to him about, we had a whole conversation upstairs when nobody else was around. I was like, dude, it's you and me. We're a team. We have to hold it together for all of these other people. Meanwhile, basically I was going, it's you, Lincoln, because I'm falling apart. It's you.
You need to help me not fall apart.
And, you know, for better or worse, I know that in some situations we probably put too much on our kids. So, you know, I'm not intending to put too much on him, but a healthy dose of responsibility at 5 is good.
It happens. It just happens. And, you know, sometimes you just need to, right?
I know. And so usually what I do, just before I came, he was walking by, I was like, you know, I just need a hug. And so he comes in, he gives me a hug, he rubs my back, and it just gives you that like boost of endorphins that you need. You know, you're just like, okay, I can do it. And I was like, all right, I got to go to the show.
All right, peace out. I'm going to make sure you take care of those 2 boys.
Do you ever have him on the show?
No, he hasn't been on the show yet.
None of the kids have.
Yeah.
They've been in the studio.
They have been to the studio, and they know everything about what's going on here, and they know that I come here every week. So I don't know, maybe sometime next year. I think it would be cool to have them on. I don't know if we're ready for Emery yet. He's gonna be in here moving all the things around. And
I'm like, listen, little boy.
He's gonna try to take over. It's so funny.
Emery's 4?
He's 3.5.
Okay.
So he'll be 4 in July, and Lincoln will be 6 in March. So, you know, but Emery's got the personality. He's like the jokester, and Emery is the one who goes, let's take pictures. And then he like hits every pose and he like does the whole thing. And Lincoln is the one that you have to like tell a joke to in order to get a smile. Cause I go smile and he goes, it's like, he's so stoic. He is so stoic. But you need both. You need both. So. Yeah, they are incredible. So anyway, so that's how the boys are. And we are making it. We are making it. I'm going to need some time probably in the near future. But
it's
meditation
funny.
Monday.
Yes, I might need some meditation and maybe a mental health day.
So I have an observation, right? Like every time Candace starts the show, every Thursday, it's like catastrophe is happening. And then by the end of the show, it's like words of wisdom. I've got this.
I mean, isn't that what parenting is? It's like borderline catastrophe every day, all day.
And then you have to do the self-talk to convince yourself that you can survive it.
Yeah, you still, because catastrophe or not, you still have to make dinner.
Yep.
We still have to eat. We still have to get in bed. We still
make sure the kids are alive. Like you have to make sure of all those things.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes on those days, I'm just like, okay, everybody get in. Like, well, let's just all go lay down. We'll all lay down together. Or why don't we watch a movie together? Or because like I just can't do another thing. Let's make it a movie night on Tuesday at 7:30. I don't even care. And the kids are all excited. Yay!
Movie night Tuesday.
Beyblades it is.
That's incredible, though. Kids are awesome, right?
Yeah, so it's good. So
they are.
Yeah, so that's how my week is going. How are you?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good. I'm just, I'm praying for son every day. all
Yes.
of a sudden.
It
So-
did get cold.
So, not only
It's
that,
been
but
gloomy.
Candace and I both decided that we were going to go solar. So she went solar first. I went solar. And so now every time I see a cloud, I'm like, move. I'm like, you're not letting me make my kilowatt hours and I don't want to pay my bill.
We
So-
have we put solar in our house too.
How long have you
It's-
had it?
Um,
You had a summer yet?
we've had it for when we built the house
Oh,
about
cool.
8 years ago.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
you've had it since then.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel
It's fantastic.
it's great?
It's.
I mean, I
it's-
like these $60 bills. I just can't
Yeah.
complain.
We-
Wait until the summer.
We get like negative bills sometimes.
That's
Where
so
like
awesome.
because you produce so much.
every March
energy.
they'll go ahead and what they call true up your account, and then if you have a negative balance, they'll pay it out for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, we've. I don't think we've ever chosen to pay it out. We usually just choose to to save the energy because you could save it and use it for later. I think, or at
Well,
least at one point it was. I don't know if that's changed.
you can bank your energy month to month, and it carries over up until the month of March. So once
I
a
see.
year, they have to bring the balances back to zero. And when they do that, they pay you out at a special price for anything that you overproduced, and so you get that back as money on your account.
Yeah.
So if you leave it there, that'll get applied to your next bill if you have any.
Mm.
It's
I
pretty
love
good.
it. I think it's great.
Yeah,
so you're right. When you're looking for sun for the solar, you're like, what about these cloudy days? Like, get out of here.
Like literally, I was outside dancing, like doing some sort of cloud
Sun
dance,
dance?
like get out of the way and the whole 9 yards.
Do you
But
go up there to shovel out the snow and the ice?
I have this little squeegee thing now that's got a
my
long
God.
telephone
Oh
thing,
my
and I'm just like pulling it. So, funny story. Not too long ago, we had a snowstorm, and my panels were active, and it was just like a dusting, but they're covered. Girl, I was up there, and I'm literally
covered in
No.
snow.
jump- because the way the roof pitches, all the snow just landed on me. I was
Oh
like,
my
I don't
God.
care. I want to make kilowatt hours. I was like, give me my money.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but I was up there.
That's
I don't
good.
care if I have to go up there with a blowtorch. I'm making sure that snow is gone.
It's gonna be.
That's usually how I
fine.
handle spiders too.
Oh my god!
Burn it all.
Blowtorch.
Dracarys.
Oh Lord!
Well, let's jump in. Let's jump in because I
Let's
really
jump
want to
in.
hear about. Because we could go on. We could go on, and we talk a lot about the weather.
We do. We're like meteorologists, but not really.
right.
But
Okay.
they aren't really meteorologists either.
And they don't even know what they're talking about.
They're only right
Oh
half the
my
time.
god! Only half the time.
I want that job.
Okay, so Chemay, I brought you on the show because so what's New Haven County? I should call it New Haven County. New Haven County is so small, and even smaller than that is the ed reform, the homeschool, the nonprofit, and those are all the. Not that I'm into homeschool, but those are all the communities that I'm in. And when I started my daycare, at least 3 people said to me, "Oh, are you doing homeschool?" I was like, "No, I said daycare." My kids are going to school. They're like, "You should meet Chemay. She's really awesome. She has a homeschool." Blah 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 blah. And it was kept coming up a couple different times. And then I followed your page on Facebook, and then I saw. I think we finally met this a month ago or
Meditation Monday.
at
Yeah.
Meditation Monday, and I just thought okay, this is a thing. We have to bring her in and talk about what's going on with homeschool. So, and I've had a couple, at least one, maybe 2 other people on the show talking about homeschooling. I had a friend who does more like a world school kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then some other people who are like hybrid, so it's more about supplementing school.
Yep.
And so you are my first true all year, just deep in it, elbow deep in homeschooling.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started and what made you want to go
Do
it. Yeah.
I never thought I would be in this world, and it is a whole other world. So I consider myself an unschooler. So as I've been learning the whole homeschooling, unschooling world, there's a lot of different types of home education.
Mm-hmm.
So unschooling is one type, and unschoolers, what makes us different than traditional homeschoolers is that we don't necessarily use a curriculum to be our guide in terms of what our kids are learning. It doesn't mean that if a child wants to use curriculum, it doesn't mean that we don't use curriculum, but that's not the main thing, our main source in terms of how we decide we're going to educate our kids. So the belief really is that our kids, learning is happening 24/7, right? Like my son being here, this is learning, right?
So
like,
cool.
You know, like we don't see that there's any missed opportunity to learn. And so children's interests and passions really drive how they learn and where they're going to learn and the tools they're going to use for learning. So those tools might be curriculum, right? If they so choose. Tools might be using people and resources in your community. A cooperative might be a tool. So yeah, I'm learning a lot all the time about homeschooling. We started traditional pre-K with Judah when he was 3.5. He still reminds me about the experience that for 3 days.
3 days?
3 days. He lasted 3 days.
Whoa.
You want to share your 3-day experience? No. So yeah, we tried pre-K. He was kicking, screaming. I had never seen him like behave that way in a public setting, and it was really frightening to him. You know, when you see your little baby, you're in like one of those rooms where they have like the cameras, and you can. And I'm like, oh my god, like why is he kicking the door? And then I'm observing the room, and I'm thinking, and I'm looking, and I'm like, you know, he's the one of. I think he was the only dark-skinned boy or one of the only. Like maybe there might have been another boy. And so, as an educator, someone who works in education, I did a lot of. I still do a lot of equity coaching and consulting in schools. And so I've been in schools across the country about these very specific issues around the disproportionate number of Black and brown kids that are being overclassified in special ed, that are being placed in more restrictive settings, that are academically underperforming, that are or being being over suspended, all of the things. All of that was like flashing in front of me, I'm just like,
as you're watching him kick the door, you're like, he's going to be suspended tomorrow.
Like the perspective, all I kept thinking was like, what is going to be the perspective of the white female teachers in this room? What's the narrative that I usually hear and see in most schools that I go to? And so my husband and I just thought, like, does he have to be there? Like, who actually invented that rule that kids have to be in preschool, right? Or they have to go to school. So we just kind of like started bordering like the edges of the, like the margins, and started thinking like, well, are there other options? Yeah. And so that's when I started, like, I could homeschool him. I was a teacher. I'll do this thing till he's like 6, and we'll put him in school. Now he's 8. And we're loving it. Like, I wouldn't, it fits our lifestyle. It just, like, it doesn't fit everyone's lifestyle. It's not for everybody. It's it's just got to fit your family. And we just discovered this is a good fit for us. Why are we going to stop a good thing? If it's working, you keep doing it. Even if no other people aren't doing it, right?
And then you find out that in Connecticut, you don't have to be in school until you're 7.
No. So, and actually most states. States. Yeah. I don't know how many of those states, but I know that there are a lot of states, because I believe New York is very similar. I think until like the age of 7, you don't have to officially be in school. And really in Connecticut, in any state you can homeschool, but there's different regulations and laws.
I hear that Connecticut is actually a pretty favorable or like genuinely easier state to be a homeschooling family.
Yeah.
So when it comes to homeschooling, what are you doing to, as part of your curriculum at home and homeschooling, to supplement his socialization with other children and kids and stuff? Because I've been hearing a lot of controversy behind homeschooling is that they may not be getting enough of the socialization part of aspect of life to be able to sort of kind of say he can function in public spaces because I'm not keeping them all to myself.
So I used to think that too, and then once I started like entering the world of homeschooling, I realized, that's like a myth, right? This is actually not a real thing. In fact, my kids spend most of their days in the public setting, more hours than kids that are in public schools or private schools. So they're actually getting a lot of daily practice interacting with people of all ages, different generations, from different cultural backgrounds, because we are in museums, because we are in cooperatives, because we go to other kinds of programs that are offered in our community. We run our own cooperative, so we bring in other folks in the community that are also have their kids, but also adults that are providing services. So there are some times, like this week we've been home because my little one's been sick, and it's an unusual week. I'm like, we've been in here for too long. It's been 4 straight. We got out today. Finally, I was like, we need to get out. I need to get some air. So most people in the homeschooling world don't actually stay home. It's called homeschooling. Maybe at some point, or, people more traditionally were like at home. But most of us don't actually like hibernate in our homes. We're in the public all the time.
All the time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that basically it's more of an advantage for you, right? It fits your lifestyle, but it's more advantageous for your child because they're not only experiencing kids at their age, they're experiencing people at many different facets or phases in life, and so therefore it opens up the possibility for them to be exposed to much more than they would in a traditional school setting.
And that's more of an actual setting because think about it. In school, you're put in a room with kids all the same age, right? Mm-hmm. And when you go to work, you're not working in a place where everyone's the same age, has the same background as you, the same. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's the way the social setup of a school is. It's not actually authentic to the real world. And kids are constantly being told, shh, be quiet, stop talking, you can't do it. So there's not even really much opportunity for kids who go to school to actually socialize because they're constantly being told, shut up, be quiet, stand in line, you can't do that. So I would argue that, and I've worked in public schools and now working as a homeschooler, like I've seen both worlds and experience, and I would argue homeschooler kids, I mean, they could have conversations with an 85-year-old about life, and it's like normal for them to do that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to me about so you talked about your lifestyle, and one of the things I heard in leading up to this conversation from someone else is about the sort of the privilege of being able to homeschool, right? We think about somebody's got to be home doing the schooling, right? Somebody has to stay home. And when you have to manage the options of perhaps lost wages or, career, talk to me about that and this perception of being privileged to do homeschooling. And is that a barrier? And is it a myth of a barrier that you shouldn't think about?
There's some privileges and then there aren't, right? So like so I left my 9-to-5 very secure job at NYU that I was there for like a decade before we decided to move into this lifestyle. And so I left a really good job. I was the one that was holding the benefits at that time. So I know in leaving, we were going to have several months without any kind of health insurance.
Wow.
And also I worked at a university. So if my kids wanted to go to college, they can go for free. My husband actually got his graduate degree at NYU for free because I was a full-time employee there. Okay. So there were all these things, privileges that I had that I gave up.
I'm stressing out right now thinking about it.
I gave all of that up, right, to do this, to say like two things. I decided I wanted to become independent. I was like, well, I'm going to do my own thing, start my own consulting. I'm going to do my own kind of business and also figure out this like homeschooling thing. I was just like jumping into it, but I needed time to do that. Traveling back and forth between the city and Connecticut, I just couldn't do it. So there are a lot of privileges I gave up to live this life. And also I've gained other privileges, like the privilege of being able to be with my kids all the time and see them grow and see the learning happen in front of my face, right?
Yeah.
Like when your kids are in school, those milestones the teachers experience with them. And I get to experience that with them, which is really, it's awesome when you could just see like the light bulb, like that light bulb moment, like I saw it with other people's children as a teacher and now I get to see it with my kids and it's like, oh my God, this is like amazing.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So
I'm stuttering. I'm thinking about so we're talking about the privileges you gain of being with them. Do you think that it's a founded, I don't know if it's a criticism, but a statement that only say rich people or middle class people or, like that only a certain set of people can give up the wage or, you know what I mean?
It's a great question.
And how do you manage, balancing those two things without sounding like a jerk, right? Like I put the needs of my kids before.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, they're in the homeschooling world. I mean, just like in every sort of aspect of life, you're going to find the spectrum of people. Like there are people that have money that are that are doing this, and they choose to absolutely. I mean, think about celebrities. A lot of them, their children have been homeschooled because of the lifestyle.
They're
on the
road,
roads, right? So those are
or they have tutors.
Yeah, I don't know that kind of a homeschooling lifestyle.
It's funny because I don't even consider those homeschool kids, right? I consider those kids with private tutors.
Right.
It's funny that
it's homeschooling.
That you consider it, I don't even think about it that way. I think, rich elite people can have a tutor come to there. It's like school comes to your house.
Yeah, but it is homeschooling. It's a type, like I said, there's different types. It's a type of homeschooling. And there are homeschoolers I know that do pay tutors, or they go to tutoring services to supplement some of the work. But no, a lot of families end up just deciding to live on one income.
Right.
So financially, like I said, that was, for a while, when I was trying to build my business, I wasn't having the same income. You know what it's like. It's like to build something, you're going to go 5 years kind of broke, So I'm on year 4, and the heavy, it's things are, I'm starting to see like the sky, like the clouds are moving, right? There's some sunlight. Like this 2020 is a good year.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
But so yeah, it's a lot of families it's one person's working, and it is a chosen lifestyle. That's what it's a chosen life. Like you decide, okay, we're going to live a certain lifestyle where we're going to have less because this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And not everyone's willing to do that.
It's so
and
true.
It's not for everybody.
So let's talk a little bit about the name. So you started a cooperative. It's called My Reflection Matters.
And Connecticut Home Education.
And Connecticut Home Education. Can you tell me a little bit about the name and the cooperative?
Yeah. So before the cooperative, I had started My Reflection Matters, and it really started as an online resource hub for parents and educators that were struggling to find culturally relevant educational products and tools to use in their learning journey with kids, whether you were a teacher in the classroom or you were trying to supplement learning at home. And so because I worked a lot in schools, doing a lot of culturally responsive training with teachers, I was finding that we're doing all of these trainings, but we don't actually have any tools and resources to give to teachers, which is what they want. They're like, where are the things? Like, what exists out there? And so I was also getting frustrated. So I started My Reflection Matters online as this virtual hub where people can find these resources. And then I also, through that, continued to provide consulting services. So workshops around, how do you create an identity affirming space in your classroom? How do you do it at home? What does it mean to support and build positive racial and ethnic identities of children, whether they're your own or someone else's child? And so I started doing that work through MRM, My Reflection Matters. And then, I'm homeschooling simultaneously. So then, of course, the two merged. And then I thought, okay, I started meeting homeschoolers. Some families were like, hey, have you thought about starting a cooperative? Like I started first with a Facebook group. And then people were like, oh, you should have a cooperative. At first, I'm like, what the hell do you mean a cooperative? Like,
What's that?
I don't know what a cooperative is. I've never experienced that. So I decided to join a cooperative in Danbury. Did that maybe close to a year. And then another mom who's also part of the My Reflection Matters and Connecticut Home Education Facebook group said, so like, yeah, you're going to do this co-op thing? And I'm like, she's like, I'll support, I'll help you. Shout out to Tamsin. And so I said, all right, yeah, it seems easy. We should do this thing. And so we started one in Waterbury. And no, it's not as easy as it sounds. There are days where I'm like, why did I decide to do this? But the idea with My Reflection Matters was that even in the homeschooling world, I was struggling to find spaces that were not white dominant, right?
Can you tell us a little bit about your first experience at a cooperative? I know the story, but they don't know the story. Because I think it's one of those things where you're like, you know all of the horror stories that could happen in public schools, or the like difficult things that can happen in public schools. So you go, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this thing, and I'll be safer here. And then like the same kind of thing happens.
Same kind of thing. Again, like all good-hearted, well-intended people, but like when you're colorblind, these are the things that happen, right? Because you're not paying attention to how your actions are perceived by people of color,
right?
And given our experiences living in a racialized world, right? So like, our co-op, everything was great, but then there was a day where, I don't know if I shared this story with you, but there was a day at our co-op where my son was crying. It was you, Judah. Do you remember that story where someone had kicked you out in the playground? I think you got was it that you got kicked? Remember at Danbury? Did you get kicked? I can't remember the exact story.
Yeah.
But there was an incident, and there was an older white girl in the group, maybe about 11 or 12, who had accused him of hurting. She said that he had hurt her. And so...
and he was like 5. Or like he was little.
Yeah. So he was probably like 6 or 7 at that time. So she's like double his age. And the mother came, like, Judah hurt her. He did this to her. And we had a conversation about it. And in fact, there was a moment where I even had seen the kids from afar, how they were interacting. And the older kids, how older kids get sometimes, they want to control, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were actually pulling like touching his hair or putting things in his hair. And I'm watching to see like, because when the hair thing starts, I start to shake. I'm like, what's going to happen now? And I caught myself and I'm thinking, do I need to go up there? And I said, I'm going to look and see. I want to see how he handles it. Yeah. Right. And so I could see he's telling them, stop. Right. He said, don't touch my hair. Because they're like putting little things. And then eventually they left. And so, and I did see him like waving at one point, I think he pushed one of the bigger girls.
Right.
Push
get off me.
Get off me. So then I told the mom, I was watching outside and I saw what happened. And, your daughter and the other girl were throwing things in his hair and he didn't like it. And he kept telling them to stop. And when they didn't, he then got physical and pushed them off because they were getting in his face.
Because he's 6 and he doesn't know any other way.
Right. And then she's just like, oh, well, I didn't know. And there was a whole stutter. But I remember having a conversation with Tamsin, the other mom, because her kids are also in the co-op. And I was just like, this is the same bullshit. Like the same, he's half her age.
And the assumption
is he's an antagonizer. The assumption is that he's trying to hurt. He's 6 years old. Why can't we look at him as you were 7. He was 7 at the time. Why can't we see that he's 7 years old and that 7-year-olds, this is how they react when someone's bothering them because they're still figuring out the whole socialization piece of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like your kids, 11, 12 years old, they should know, right? To be able to, they should know that if someone tells them to stop, right? Like there's a difference developmentally on what's going on, but it's, there's a lot of research around little black boys that as soon as they turn, I think, the age of 8, they're already seen as double their age. Yeah. And it's like, it's happening live in my face. I mean, oh my God.
This is why I'm so sensitive when people say my 5-year-old looks like a teenager.
Yeah.
He's 5.
It's scary. That's scary. Yeah.
He's 5.
Yeah.
So I start saying things like, yeah, but look at his baby hands. Okay. He's a baby. Look at his face. He's a baby. But sometimes people can't see past that, right? They just see, especially if you got a big old tall kid like I have, right? They just have a set of, we just had report card night and everything is great with him academically, but he needs reminders to stay on topic or to not play around or to not fool around. And sometimes I'm thinking, yeah, but how much of that is he's 5? He's not a bad, you don't call me because he's getting suspended. He's not a bad kid, right? He's 5 and he can't sit on the carpet for 39 minutes or whatever amount of time you want him to listen to this story.
Exactly.
What are the actual developmental things that are appropriate for them right now? And what are the additional assumptions or built-in biases that you are putting on my 5-year-old?
And for brown and black children, unfortunately, we see those patterns in school, homeschool, in just every aspect of our lives. When you look a certain way, there's just all these assumptions tied to just how you look.
Mm-hmm. God forbid you have long hair.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's a whole, that's a whole other, I could tell you stories with that one too, but.
That's so real. Yeah. So from this experience, you sort of had this negative and maybe one or maybe a couple of these little tiny things that sort of say, you know what, maybe this isn't the place. I thought that we could join into this group, but we actually can't. And from there, you started your own group. Yeah. And tell me what that experience has been like, having your own cooperative.
Yeah. So I didn't realize then, because I didn't know I was going to start a co-op. Right. We just started this Facebook group. I was
I can't go here anymore.
I was like, yeah, exactly. And so I already had started the building community through the Facebook group, because like you guys were mentioning earlier, the whole village. Like I was like, I'm doing this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. And I know that I need my kids to be around other Black and brown kids. So I need to find them. And so I made the space. I was like, well, let me make a Facebook space because I can't find anything else. And homeschoolers love to be on Facebook. Like they're in hundreds of different groups. That's how they build their community. Right. And so once I mentioned the co-op, I didn't have to market that much. The homeschoolers in the Facebook group were just like, finally, she's doing it. Great. And so we have about 34 kids. About 14 families in total. And it's like a lot.
That's the power of social media. A lot of people don't realize.
They don't realize
how much power and how easy it is for the word to spread in matter of hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we're the only, so in the state of Connecticut, My Reflection Matters in Connecticut Home Education Facebook group is the only group that specifically targets the needs of kids of color, families of color across the state. Like there is no other homeschool group and or cooperative that has that very intentional mission and focus, which is why we've attracted so many families because they're just like, oh, finally somebody did something, because I've been homeschooling for like 8 years and, I've been struggling with finding culturally relevant programming for our kids, or if I go to a space where they're talking about history, it's always told like through the lens of the oppressor, right? Like, when they talk about colonialism, it's always from a romanticized, perspective around colon. They just forget like, oh, like you all had slaves.
Yeah.
And, you were,
not cool.
Killing Native people, right? And stealing African bodies.
But
and
Thanksgiving.
But like, we don't want to talk about that, right? Yeah. So, those are conversations I've had to have with some people in groups because I just, get really frustrated when they begin to romanticize certain things and then want our kids to be a part of it. And it's like, yeah, no, we're not going to be there. Sorry.
So what I'm hearing from you, because I'm thinking about the people, they're always the people who are like, colorblind or like, can we all just get along? And why do we need this space? Why don't we just have a strong homeschool space for everybody? Right? Like, what do you say to those? I feel like you were saying it just now, but what do you say to those people who are like, why do you think you need a homeschool space for Black and brown kids? Why can't you just bring this to the other space?
I would say then why aren't you in public school? Like, there's a reason why you left a larger community because you felt like that wasn't meeting the needs of your child. So in the same way that your children's needs weren't being met, whether it's because of they have a disability, whether it's because of your religious beliefs, whatever it may be, well, kids of color have needs too, just like women have needs, just like, families of LGBTQ families have, like there are needs in every group that you can think of.
And we have those needs.
That's
a really good point.
Like,
I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, we have needs too. And then I think when you start to talk about what those needs are and you ask people, are you ready? Like, are you ready to offer this kind of like we want, decolonized education. And this is how we define that. Are you ready to do that?
Did you hear about the teacher in Hamden who was trying to put on the slave play in Hamden?
Yes.
Whatever. Like, what are your... I feel like my answer would be, this is why my kids are at home. But my kids are not at home,
So my
what did you think about that?
My kids are home.
I haven't heard about this.
Okay, so just the backstory is, in Hamden, which is a town in Connecticut, a teacher was, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, a middle school class. They were putting on
it's important to know
a white teacher. A white teacher
always
was decided that they were going to learn about colonialism and slavery through this play. And in the play, there were like a couple slaves. And I feel like the story I read said that the 2 Black kids in the class were cast as the 2 slaves, right? And there was like a slave driver and a whip, and like it was all kinds of stuff going on, and that the parents didn't know about it. And so this mom of one of the Black kids only found out about it because the kid came home and was like, oh, we're doing a play and I'm going to be a slave. And she was like, Erks, what's happening here?
Pump the brakes.
And that's how she found out, 1, about the play, and then 2, about the like specifics of the play. And what I thought was incredible was that, and this parent is like a professor at Yale on racism in America,
oh, wow.
right? Like, so
I didn't know that.
the whole idea is that you are a family, right, of means, and you want to go to a place that's like provide good education and a like diverse place. Hamden is kind of a diverse place, right? You want to give the best to your kid. You don't think that you're taking like you just don't expect to bring work home in this way, right?
Yeah.
You don't expect for it to like hit you straight in the face. And the only thing I could think of today in the car was like, everybody assumes that every Black person they meet is the same old run-of-the-mill kind of person. And I feel like people need to realize and recognize and get ready for that some people have means, access, agency, and a little bit of power, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not just going to do anything to me. If I have the ability to be so-and-so person, right? Like the story that people tell about Black and brown parents is that we should be so grateful for any little thing,
any
or
crumbs that we throw
exactly,
at you.
or we should be so grateful to be in this place. Oh, look at you! Yes, but look at me, right?
I'm stunned right now. Like I haven't even gotten over that story. Like I'm shocked.
I think they
actually I shouldn't be, but I am.
I know, and that was like yesterday. This isn't a story from
it was
1997. This was this week in 2020. 2020, this is still happening. A brand new year, 2020. So it's the kind of thing where like these things they're not stopping, right? Racism isn't aging out. People are not, no matter how many times we tell you this is inappropriate, they still think. And then a friend of mine said that, the sort of like conversation that people are having is, why is this woman so sensitive? I think the teacher got put on leave. It's like, why does the teacher got put on leave, and they're like, why does a good teacher have to be put on leave for trying to do something, right? Like trying to teach the kids something. And why is this person's skin so thick or so thin, or why,
well, first of all,
that's what the like everyday person's response is to this, instead of, and the last thing I'll say about it is that when the mom called the school to talk to the teacher and the principal, it was kind of like it was like, wasn't a big deal. They didn't expect that mom to be able to go to the superintendent, to be able to go to the head of the department, right? Like they didn't expect her to be able to really, then all of a sudden people want a meeting with her. People want to send apologies. People want to do oh, you didn't know who I was. Oh, you thought I didn't know how to manage this kind of situation. Oh, you thought wrong. Right?
And when I hear that, I get really sad and angry when I know that there are so many parents that have been trying to fight that struggle, but didn't maybe know how to do it, the superintendent,
right? Exactly.
Like, or didn't have the connections with the right people that were going to be able to agitate the situation in the way they needed it to be agitated.
Ooh,
it's a lot, right?
I need something to calm me down, because I'm ready to start everybody all over the place here.
I know,
it's so crazy stuff.
It's insane. It's exhausting. I think that is a very like clean explanation or description of what it is. It is exhausting to try and manage all of this other stuff, right? That we all have to manage as parents, and this additional piece. And so when I hear that, like, there's a group of people who are just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, basically, we've...
Thank you, little man, for being in the studio today. 'Cause let me tell you.
He's cleaning up my language.
Ooh.
When they're just like, I'm out, right? I'm out. And I'm not going to be alone, right? I'm not going to worry about any of the myths that I've heard. I'm not going to be worried about what... I'm mostly worried about what I don't know and can't teach my kids, right? Like, Lincoln legit had a homework page the other day, and I must have read those instructions like 15 times, and I was like, dude, I don't know. Right? It's kindergarten. I was like, I think they miswrote these instructions.
Listen, when I hear you say that, I'm thinking, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with homework. I didn't like doing my own homework. I can't imagine trying to help them with theirs.
So going back to the conversation about homeschooling and having the cooperative and doing all of these amazing things that you're doing with your kids, how would you say is, for anyone that's doing or wants to do homeschooling? We know that obviously lifelong learning is part of this whole process, right? You're constantly learning, even when you're not technically
in school. Yeah.
How much of your day, or how many hours in a day do you actually dedicate to perhaps some sort of curriculum that you may have established for yourself or that you have to follow?
Yeah.
Like, how many hours in a day do you actually actively work on
Mm-hmm. All day, right? When you're unschooled, it's like all the hours count.
So my kids, my kids are still young. So, they learn a lot through play.
Mhm.
So, I keep saying I'm going to either write an article or a book that's titled How My Son Learned How Mealworms Taught Judah How to Read. So Judah, I'm going to share a little story. Is it okay if I share a story about you? Yeah. Okay. So Judah, my 8-year-old, he started reading at 4. And that's because I used to teach reading. And so I was just like, oh, I know how to, we're going to do this. But then I started noticing there was a loss. There was a big cost in getting my kid to read at 4. And the cost was his love for reading. He started seeing it as this is a job. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it.
I feel
was
that
like,
with my soul.
Oh, I said, man, all right. So he could read phonetically.
But
at
I'm
4,
beating it out of him.
But he fucking hates this. And I don't want him to not enjoy reading because we get so much through that. And so I backed off. And that's when I started researching unschooling and all these other types of things. And so I backed off and I said, so when I think about a day with us, a day could look like we wake up, come up with our schedule. Okay, what's on the schedule? What's on your to-do list? Like, what are your goals? What are the intentions you want to set for your day? And my kids will say, like Judah might say, well, today I want to research how to breed mealworms at home. Because he has a gecko and he was getting tired of having to use his money to pay for the crickets and the mealworms to feed his gecko. So he thought, well, can I just breed them myself? And I'm like, that sounds really cool. Yeah, let's research that. So we would spend hours researching. But guess what he's doing while he's having to research?
Read.
You have to read. You have to sound out words. You got to spell. So now I'm next to him as a guide. How do you spell this word? Because I won't spell them for him. Let's sound it out. Okay. And he's not giving me the pushback that he would when let's read in the very formal way.
Yeah.
But we're doing all of the things, right? It's like giving the vegetables in the soup, but they don't realize that
right.
vegetables are in the soup, right? And like some fun looking vegetable pie. And so his reading just miraculously, I don't know how many levels up, but I remember there was a leveled book that he couldn't read. And one day I said, we haven't looked at this one. Let's pick it up. Started reading it fluently. And I'm like, I have not done any kind of reading program with him. And I know that's through the daily, what's on our to-do list, what are we researching today? And through that constant researching and exploring the things that they love. He loves to fish. So we go out fishing. Sometimes we'll spend the other day we went fishing, we went ice fishing.
Wow.
And then we went to an ice fishing class with adults. They had some kids his age. They gave us ice fishing, booklets, and through there we've been reading them to identify different so he's learning through all of that. So yeah, a day for us is not necessarily we're pulling out a program. They do have an online program they use, Math Seeds and Reading Eggs. So, and they'll do that kind of whenever they feel like it, or I might mention, hey, do you want to add that on your to-do list? I will say, if I notice it's been a long time maybe that we haven't practice some certain math skills or it hasn't come up. If I feel like something hasn't come up in our daily activities, I might say, hey, you want to work on your math seeds or your reading eggs? And they'll spend a few hours doing that or whatever. And it's one of those programs that kind of tracks kids, but I don't really pay attention to it. But yeah, that's our day is what are your goals for today? Let's explore and that's what we do.
That's amazing. And do you also, I'm filling in some blanks here. Do you also look at what your goals are for the day and how you can include them into your thing?
Yep.
That was something I learned from Common Ground, one of the Common Ground teachers.
Yeah.
Who was just
we go to Common Ground. That's on our schedule too.
That there is work, there's adult work, and all around the world in different cultures, there are kids that are working right alongside of adults because that's what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They may or may not have actual school, but there's just the work is the work, and you can adjust it to whatever level is necessary, and it's important for them to learn how to be around knives or whatever.
No, yeah, our kids, so one of the things we do is actually Common Ground. We do a program there. So that's part of our schedules throughout the week is places that we might go to and things we might do at home or with other families. But so when they do their schedule, I do my schedule with them right alongside them. And so I, maybe might be a couple hours or doing some stuff together. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my 2 hours because I got some work to do from home. And what are you going to work on today? Oh, well, I'm just going to go, I'm going to watch a YouTube video on how they build mouse traps. Okay, great. And then my little one might just decide, he's small. He's like, well, I just want to do a puzzle.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to play with my Legos and build something. Cool. And so, yeah, I'm working while they're doing what kids are supposed to do, right? Play is their job. And then what I'm noticing now at 8 is he'll say, Mommy, can I go with you to work? So if I have to go facilitate a workshop, he came with me last week. He's like, I want to go. And I said, yeah. He's like, I got work to do. So I'm just going to pack it in my bag and I'll bring my work. And I'm like, I know he's getting that because he sees and hears me like I got my work.
Right.
And he put like a workbook. He never likes to do workbooks, but he put a workbook in his book bag.
That's great.
And he pulled it out while I was doing the workshop. He worked a little, then he had a game, then he worked a little, then he had a little game. And that was just completely independent. It wasn't me forcing the workbook and like, you have to do this. It was, hey, I'm going to bring my work and I want to do it with you while you do your work.
That's amazing.
So
yeah. as a final thought, what would your sort of, I don't want to say encouragement for, I don't want to call it that because, but maybe, like how do you get people to think that maybe it is indeed possible for them to do homeschooling? It is a lifestyle, but if you were on the edge and you were thinking about it, what would your advice to them be?
My advice is follow your instinct. As women, I think we have been conditioned to not do that because we're so conditioned to not pay attention to our bodies and to take care of everybody else's bodies. And so listen to your body. Your body's telling you something. If something keeps repeating itself, it's because there is a message that you're not listening to. And that message is telling you that maybe what you're doing right now is not working and to trust it and to trust yourself. Take a break. So I have moms sometimes that'll come to me and be like, oh, I'm doing this thing, but I don't know what to do. And I bought all these books. Don't buy nothing. Don't start signing up your kid to a million things. Don't start, getting all these books. Like, relax. If your kid's 8, take 8 months off. Like, take 8 months to just have fun with your child, get to know your child. What are the things that they love? What are the things that they hate? What are the things they've never been exposed to that you want to offer? And then just enjoy that time with each other. And I think once you start to enjoy that time with your child and you get to know who they are, that will guide what you need to do. And finding community. Like the Facebook group that I started was a lifesaver for me to find I'm like, oh, I'm not the only mom of color that's crazy, like feeling crazy, like that sees these things that I feel like, is anyone seeing what I just saw? Like, this is crazy. So finding your village is so important. I think those are the two most important. Get to know your kid, have fun, and find your village. Your village will help guide you on what you need to do.
That's so real. I love it so much. Chemay, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
This time went by so fast.
It did. It always does. It always does.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Anytime. And come back and tell it when something new is going on.
I will.
You're welcome back anytime.
Okay, great.
I always say time flies when you're on Prozac.
Well, as we wrap up, we have one more piece.
Yeah. What do we have?
It's our Mom So Hard tip. And I want to say that the Mom So Hard tip of the week is just to like build it, make it, do it, build it, whatever. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, like Chemay said, about not knowing how to do something or try to force yourself to fit into something. Find a way to just do it yourself, even if you just start small, right? Because you might be really surprised that if you put yourself out there, we were talking about this last week, shine bright, and they just come to you.
That's right.
People just swarm to you, and then you end up not having to do it all alone. So just do it.
And I think that something that you said really resonated with me was that, find the time to get to know your child, right? Like take the time to focus on a personal connection and everything falls into place.
It really does.
That's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations. Obviously, you're doing something right. This young man is sitting here with us. He's holding the fort down while we're doing our show over here. And it's wonderful, right? This is going to be yet another experience for him.
It is.
I got to, see
He's going to start asking, like, can we buy all that stuff and put it in our house?
Sure, why not? You want to go into radio? Hey, listen, we can do that. You can do that. Do some research on that.
See?
There's a lot of videos on YouTube on podcasting and hosting radio that will probably be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you are welcome back anytime, Judah, whenever you're ready to be on air. Cool? He's like, no, not really cool.
He's like, I'm ready to go.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. I think this has been an amazing conversation, and I am super grateful for the this time for me is rejuvenating every single week. And even when I think that I can't manage it, I drag my ass over here, and it is really, really good. I feel like I have what I need to make it through the next 5 days until we're back, 7 days until we're back. So thanks so much for being with us, for tuning in every week, and for being here. Make sure you share,
That's right.
subscribe, all of the things so that we can keep doing what we're doing.
That's right. Go to Apple Podcasts, download, subscribe, rate, review. You can also find the show on Digital Stream Radio, Google Play Music, Spotify. It's on Stitcher.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And if you're interested in learning more about homeschooling, you can find My Reflection Matters on Facebook.
Yep.
And what's the other one? Connecticut Homeschool?
You can, the private Facebook group is My Reflection Matters in CT Home Education. And then there's myreflectionmatters.org. So if you go to the website, you can find all the homeschooling and other services that I offer.
Perfect. So definitely do check that out. There's a ton of really awesome resources there. So thanks again, Chemay. It was really nice to see you. And until next time, bye. This show is produced by Tom Ortiz at Digital Stream Radio. It's available for download on Podbean. Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.